Hi Homeworthy, I'm Kristine. We're here in California at my home. Let's check it out.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. A special thanks to Perigold for sponsoring today's episode.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristine Renee. I'm an interior designer and owner of Design Alchemy, and we're here in Sacramento, California in my cozy bungalow. So here's a story about my house. I was house hunting over COVID, which was a struggle in itself. This house, I drove by, I saw the sign. It had just been put up a few hours beforehand. I scheduled a tour, walked in, and immediately knew it was gonna be mine. It definitely was not the style of house I was looking for. I really had my heart set on a little California adobe, and this is more of a 1920s craftsman bungalow, but it definitely was love at first sight. So when I drove by, it was actually the house numbers that intrigued me most. They're these kind of wonky script. And the yard was really overgrown. The exterior was a dark kind of greenish beige. But I saw right past it. I opened the door and it really was the natural light flooding in, the original windows, the original hardwood floors, all of that kind of historic charm that I fell in love with and immediately had this vision for what I could do. So decorating the home has really been a progression for me. When I moved in, I was in grad school and I was doing all my courses online because of COVID. And I had a lot of late nights studying right in front of the fireplace, and it was dark and moody, and I kind of leaned into that a little too much, to be honest. I kind of started with these dark plaid plum drapes and really heavy textiles. And it felt super cozy, but when I graduated from grad school and kind of re-entered back into my space, I wanted something that was kind of a breath of fresh air, that had more color, but still had all the texture that I love. So over the last 3 years, it's definitely been kind of a process for me, and it's been fun to kind of mix and match and really kind of explore my style and my design aesthetic. So I, as you can tell, redid the drapes in the living room behind me. I've wallpapered almost every single wall in the house. I think I have 2 walls that are in the bathroom that don't have paper. And I just finished remodeling the kitchen and adding in a lot of built-in cabinetry. So it's been a journey, but a really fun one. Here we are in the entryway of my home, and it's not really a formal entry space, but I've kind of created a tableau here to ground the area. This is a really cool chest that I found at one of my childhood antique stores that we used to frequent all the time. I absolutely love the lines of it, and it pairs perfectly with this piece of artwork by a local artist named Alan Post. It's actually my first big girl art purchase on my 30th birthday. And she has traveled with me from apartment to apartment and had to have her debut right here in the entry. I chose this William Morris wallpaper. I love the botanical feel of it. It's also one of the oldest prints in the collection, which I think is so cool and timeless. And then this pottery, I collect way too much pottery. And this is one of my pieces that we purchased in Portugal on a mom-daughter sourcing trip. And I just really was inspired by kind of the wavy texture and the purple and green tones, which I pulled throughout the whole home. And then this little plate I picked up in Mexico City. So I love layering things from my travels and kind of mixing and matching. I swap things all the time. It just makes it a little bit more interesting. And then moving over here, I have gallery rails throughout the house, and that was something I really wanted to keep. It's authentic to the heritage of the home, and it's awesome because I get to switch out my artwork all the time. So I have these brass rails, kind of move them around, can place different art pieces. This banjo girl I got from a local antique store called Elsie Green, and my mom always wanted to play the banjo growing up. And so when I saw this, it just totally reminded me of her, and I had to purchase it. Now we're heading into the main living space. As you can see, all the rooms kind of flow together, but I really wanted to create some intimacy in each space and make it unique. So here's my wallpaper. I did a texture in here, a natural grass cloth just to add a layer of warmth. I'm constantly sitting by my fireplace. This is where you can see me all winter long. And I went with a cut to size rug just to have a geometric pattern. As you can tell, I have a lot of different patterns going on. I didn't want a neutral on the floor, but I wanted something that kind of had that geometric element that felt a little tailored and fresh. This is a new addition, this swivel chair. Hello, you want to see the fireplace, so this is a great spot. And I worked with Perigold to procure this chair. And Perigold is such a great resource because they have so many designer brands, but they make it really simple to order custom upholstery. I went with this kind of funky avocado green to brighten up the corner. And I just think it's so sweet with the skirt and the button detail. It's a great addition. Moving over, I needed some privacy in this space, and I went with these cafe curtains to just still add light filtering into the room, but to have that privacy when we're kind of lounging on the sofa. And then I have a Zack & Fox fabric, one of my favorite fabric houses, and I had to debut one of his prints. And when they're closed at night, the space feels even more cozy. With the sofa, I wanted to bring in another print, but I didn't want it to be overwhelming in the space. I strategically went with this neutral plaid to bring more masculine energy to the room. I have a lot of kind of girly prints going on. I have the pink kitchen, and I needed something to ground the space, feel neutral, but also really polished. I worked with Perigold to bring in some more texture on the sofa and kind of that added bit of color. So I have these nice velvet pillows with the beautiful banding that mix really well with my other collection of pillows that I've kind of collected over the years. One of my favorite things about this room are the built-ins. When I first moved in, they were actually floating shelves, but I could see the old grooves for the hinges. And so I knew that there were originally at one point doors. And being a designer, I kind of hate seeing all the mess, but I have a lot of stuff. So I added doors back in when we remodeled the kitchen, and a little secret, it's not super organized, but it allows me to kind of conceal all my books, all my accessories that I pull out, but then it still feels really tailored and together with the hidden door. So it's not always ideal to see a TV in a living room, but when you're working with under 1,000 square feet, you have to have a TV somewhere. I chose this piece of artwork for the TV to kind of bring the space together. And on the mantle, I've layered some coffee table books for some height. I definitely like the candles at night. I love that energy. And I found these awesome antique vases that bring the colors of the room in that I fill with blooms from the garden to bring the outside in. One of the things I fell in love with at the house were the original windows. And when we went to paint the house, we found so much dry rot, which was really unfortunate. The house wasn't really in good shape. And so I had to replace all the windows. I went with the same exact window design. I didn't change any of the sizes. I kept the panes the same, everything. So even though, yes, the high-low bothers me a little bit, I wanted to stay true to the heritage of the home and bring in that same kind of original old school pane everywhere. I absolutely adore the original charm of the space, and one of the big features is all of the molding. I kept all of it, especially one of my favorites is this beautiful trim work leading into the dining room. And when I was designing out the dining room, I really had to think about how these two spaces were going to flow together. Again, I absolutely love pattern, so I wanted to pick a wallpaper to transition the space, but also for the dining room to feel like its own room, not just a pass-through area. So I worked with Perigold and House of Hackney to cover the room in this amazing print. It's a little bit wild, but I think it's just perfect. It blends in with the kitchen, it blends in with all the tones in the living room, and again, it just creates this layer of intimacy and makes this dining space an area that you just want to hang out in. It was really important to me to honor the heritage of the home. As mentioned, it wasn't really my first pick architecturally, but I leaned into the style a lot. And I had gone to a trip in the Cotswolds in England, and I was really inspired by the snug, this kind of cozy secluded space that was head to toe and texture, and you could draw the blinds and just have this really intimate space and moment. And that really kind of led the creative direction for infusing more charm and more historical context into the space. And I think, it's an ever-evolving process, but I've always looked to the architecture of the home and the neighborhood to inform all the design decisions. I think the best compliment somebody could give me about my home is that it feels lived in. It doesn't feel like it's trying too hard. And I think I really see that most is when I'm entertaining and people are comfortable to leave their shoes on and walk on the rug and cozy up on the chaise and, grab a drink and not be afraid to go through the cupboards or, get a glass of water from the fridge. So I think it's just that feeling that you're at home and that it's just a comfortable space. That's definitely the biggest compliment. When I first moved into the space, I had this really oversized rectangular table in the room. And I felt when I had friends over, people just weren't sitting at it. So I brought in this round table that I found at the Round Top Antique Fair in Texas. And it just becomes a lot more conversational, which works really nicely, again, with the flow, but also for entertaining. And here I've set the table for you all in kind of my blush and purple and green tones. We have more texture with the ruffled napkins. We have some beautiful handmade pieces of pottery and dishware from Portugal, some hand-blown glass. And again, you're able to bring in that texture on the tabletop. The florals, I love that kind of pop and introduction of that purple there. And the glassware just really sings and makes the space feel just pretty. When you come over for dinner, it's a really casual vibe. I usually have the bar set up here on the dining table, so I kind of do drinks, aperitivo here, and then we move outside and kind of use the larger outdoor space for more seating. You can see this massive floor mirror that's kind of leaning up here. I added the paneling. It's really true to the home, and I just wanted to kind of ground the wall a little bit. It always felt like such a blank space. I didn't know what to do with it. So we added the paneling 3/4 up, of course, did the wallpaper in the entire room. And then this massive mirror kind of brings in more light in the space. And to be honest, this is where I do my makeup every morning. It's where I check my outfit. In such a small space, we really needed different zones that were multifunctional. So yes, it's beautiful and it adds dimension and makes the room feel bigger, but it's also totally functional to kind of have that last look before you leave the door. Again, I have so much pattern throughout the house that it's okay to have some neutrals kind of brought in to ground the eye. So I worked with Perigold and Theodore Alexander for these slip-covered chairs. Another one of my tips is when you have a small space and a lot of furniture, I really like working with skirted furniture so you just don't see the legs. Sometimes having different legs and kind of all those shapes and sizes is a little bit distracting, but adding that skirt, it brings in kind of a more cozy element with the upholstery, but it also is a little bit more streamlined and gives you a kind of tailored aesthetic. The overhead plaster light fixture is really kind of simple in scale and in size, but it has kind of a refined look to it that I was going for the dining room. I didn't want something distracting. I wanted something that kind of went away a little bit, but had an architectural feel in its kind of shape and style. And I think it does just that. It illuminates up, so at night, super moody, and it's on a dimmer. And then it allows me to create a beautiful tablescape that's just kind of illuminated by the chandelier. One of the things I added in the remodel was this bench. And usually you see a dining room bench with a table pulled up to it, but I purposefully kind of wanted to keep the two zones separate. This is where I kind of come in the morning, drink my coffee, check my email on my phone, and I also, needed more storage. So I added these drawers underneath to kind of hide all my things. So I won't open it up because it's a little chaotic in there, but I have kind of all my vases, my dinnerware, my platters, my taper candles, and it's the perfect place to kind of stash everything away, but still have it look really pretty. I found these vintage cabinets online that had this bamboo detail, and I kind of tweaked it a little bit and had the cabinet shop kind of replicate the look for the face of the cabinets. And I think it kind of adds that bit of whimsy to the space that is just right. As you can see, we have a lot of pattern throughout the home, and especially in the dining room. We talked about how kind of the solids ground the space, which I think is really important when you're mixing and matching different patterns. And it allows you to then bring in more pattern and texture in other places so it feels really harmonious. So I encourage you, don't be afraid to mix and match pattern. I think one of the keys moments here is that the colors are kind of working really well together. So we have kind of tone on tone patterns, which is one way to achieve that look. And then we brought in more of that kind of plum tone on the pillows to complement the wallpaper. So I found this vintage table. It's actually quite cute. I wanted a little bit more kind of texture and color for the holidays coming up, but the legs of it are just awesome. It was one of my first antique purchases, and I think it works really great in this corner. This little candlelight, I don't know if you can really see it flickering, but it's so sweet. I light it almost every night for a little bit of ambiance. My mom gifted it to me for Christmas last year, and it really was kind of the perfect gift for me. And then again, kind of talking about layering different pieces from your travels. This is a cute little splatter dish that I picked up in Montauk this year. And then this is another great find, this tray from Portugal with this hand-painted palm on it. And it makes me happy to walk through my house and just see all these kind of little pieces that I've collected. And it sparks back that memory of the trip. And I think it just makes the space just feel more like my own. I think lighting is one of the most important elements that you can bring into a space to create mood. And again, I wanted to make a moment out of this space. It didn't exist before, the bench wasn't here. It was just kind of a open, wasted area. And so I brought in this plug-in sconce. With old homes, there's never enough electrical plugs. And I didn't have a sconce on the wall. So I went with this one that plugs in so it feels like it's always been there, but it also really makes the moment. As you can see, I went with a more neutral color tone on my draperies. It brings in that texture. I think it complements the wallpaper really well. But again, it neutralizes the space and allows me to then mix and match the pattern on the bench seat and the pillows here. And then I wanted a really kind of soft layer. So I went with these relaxed Roman shades that are light filtering. So they bring in kind of that outside feel. They're not too heavy, and I think that's really important because the room could easily feel heavy with this dark, moody wallpaper and these heavy textural items, but having that really kind of lacy element kind of brightens up the room and was just the touch I needed, so it felt open and airy. So I really have been steeped in the world of interior design since before I can remember. My mom started as a commercial designer, working for Sega and Sony in the video game era, designing all of their commercial spaces worldwide. And my dad is a general contractor. He's now retired. So growing up, our house was always filled with tarps and under renovation. And it just really was in my blood without me knowing it. I went off to college and studied women and gender studies. I wasn't interested in design at that point, but what I didn't recognize is that I had always been around it. And after college, I moved to Malaysia for a Fulbright grant. And it was during that period that I really missed design. I missed kind of that creative aspect and kind of the hands-on work of it. So I started designing furniture with a few manufacturers in India and Southeast Asia through connections that my mom had. And I was designing all of these sample products for big box retailers. And I ended up having a whole furniture line that I showed at Las Vegas and High Point Market, and moved back home and started a retail store with some of my designs. and slowly kind of got into residential interior design. And my mom and I joined forces and named our company, and the rest is history. And it's been about 10 years now. Working in a family business definitely has its challenges, but I would say over the last 10 years, we've really grown together. We kind of have this perfect yin-yang kind of working relationship. And it's so fun. You know, we travel all the time for work, internationally, locally. We have projects all over the US, and there's really nobody else at the end of the day that I want to share a cocktail with after a long day of work. Also, there's so much trust involved in our practice with our clients, with each other, and being able to share that with family is kind of really a special thing. And we really do have the most fun. When I remodeled the kitchen, I added this little peninsula here. I wanted kind of a space to bring my laptop at the end of the day and work and have it be really informal when we're cooking in the kitchen. I went with a reeded front panel, so it felt, again, a little bit of a level of sophistication to the space. And you'll see in the kitchen that I copied that same reeded detail, but did it painted. So I mixed and matched a lot of cabinet styles here, but I wanted to add a little area of interest to this space, and it's kind of just the right spot for me to kind of sit while my partner cooks dinner and hang out. And now we're entering into the kitchen. You can see the color is just kind of warm and luscious. I wanted a mauvey pink. I come kind of in my purple pink era and just really went for it. To be honest, we do a lot of different color cabinetry with our clients, but I hadn't yet convinced anybody to go this bold with a cabinet color in a kitchen. So I thought, hey, if I'm trying to get my clients to do it, I better be able to do it. So here we are. To be honest, it also took me a little while to warm up to the color, but I absolutely love it now. It looks so different in different lights. And then again, the wallpaper just brings it home and ties it all together. I intentionally went with a wood stain lower. We cook a lot and we're kind of messy people. So I wanted, you know, if the cabinets get nicked up, to be able to just sand them down and restain them. And when I refinished the floors, I also went with a lighter wood tone so that there was some contrast between the lower cabinets and the floor. And then, as you know, went with that kind of mauvey pink on all the uppers, and that's where you really see the color. And I think it works nicely. The aged brass hardware, again, brings in that kind of heirloom, traditional feel that's true to the home. I did the same thing with the bridge faucet, went with the unlacquered brass, and that's one of the things that you just have to kind of love the patina and be into it. Same with the marble. It all feels really worn and lived in, and I'm super happy with how the space turned out. Just like lighting, window treatments are another element in a room that you can kind of introduce more interest to the space. I went with this green Zac & Fox fabric. I wouldn't necessarily say that it would kind of match with everything we have going on, but I think it's just kind of that element that I needed of that mix match look to make it feel kind of lived in, unique, and just not too precious. I added this beadboard to the backsplash everywhere throughout the kitchen. It really spoke to the era of the home, and I couldn't decide on a tile that I liked. As I mentioned, we are super messy when we cook, so I carried the same countertop behind my range, added this sweet little OG detail that we designed. It's super easy to wipe up, and then with the hood, again, I wanted more color brought in, so I painted it out that mauvey color, added this tip rail, and I'm constantly switching out this artwork up here. I can't wait to decorate it for the holidays. I think it just adds kind of that little quirkiness that I needed in the kitchen to offset against the commercial range, which really is just a utilitarian piece, and we're constantly cooking on this baby. We're always encouraging clients to not be afraid of installing floating shelves over a window, especially in a kitchen and in a small space. You would think it's a design faux pas, but it actually works out really well functionally. I don't have a ton of cabinet space in here, and we have so much dishware that these floating shelves are the place for me to kind of stash my plates, my different vessels that I use. And then also when I entertain, I find friends just grabbing a bowl, grabbing a plate that they need. So it just feels really kind of casual and collected. And I love that about the room. In 1,000 square feet, you really have to integrate storage wherever possible. So I don't know if you could tell, but this is my stackable laundry, which is hidden and concealed and just kind of blends in with the rest of the cabinetry. I did a built-in pantry here, which is really useful and great. Everything's at eye level. And then my paneled Sub-Zero fridge and freezer drawers. I went with the reeded paneling here. It's such a big door that I wanted to have a little bit of texture. And when you look in, you're just kind of absorbed by this pink hue, and I think it works great. One of another elements in the room is this Dutch door. It was really my dream to have a Dutch door leading into the backyard. I went with this iron door because it's just indestructible and impervious to the weather. And let's try to kind of open it up here so you can check it out. But we're always hosting outside. In the summer, the Dutch door is constantly open, and I love coming in the front door and just having your eye go in that backyard space. You know, decorating my house has been the most challenging design process and project I've had to date. So I always encourage friends, you know, don't be too hard on yourself. Design is definitely an evolution. I think you should leave space in your home to fill it with things that you love from your travels, or when you stumble into a gallery and you find a piece of art that just fits really perfectly. I also think that it's good to come up with a plan and to see that plan through. So make a mood board, design out the whole living room, and then do it in one go. I think it's hard when you're piecemealing things together. It's, you know, never really feels complete. So I always encourage people to go through the steps, do the mood board, pick out all the fabrics, see them in your space, and then do all the rooms. And then, you know, you have space to kind of change that later on or add to it, but it's definitely the way to go. As an interior designer, it really was a love-hate relationship doing my own home. I'm exposed to so much. So to narrow down one wallpaper for the dining room and to really commit to it is hard. But I would encourage people, just go for it, do it. See how the space makes you feel when you're done. And if it's not what you were hoping for, live with it for a while, kind of figure out why it's not working for you, and then you have a better perspective of what to change. It's always important to really live in your space and understand it, how the light comes in, how you're functioning in your kitchen, where you're entertaining, where your guests are landing when you're entertaining, and kind of monitor that and have it inform your decisions. Here we are in the outdoor space. Living in such a small home, this outdoor living and dining area really kind of becomes our second home. We do all of our entertaining out here. We have a much larger dining table where we kind of pile our friends in, and then this lounge seating, which we're constantly hanging out in over the summertime. Just like the scale of the indoor space, the outdoor area isn't that large either, but I wanted to kind of create a layer of intimacy out here, just like I did inside. So we built this pergola to hang the string lights off of, kind of distract from the telephone pole and the not so pretty elements. And I love it. We always have the lights on when we're hosting out here, and it just kind of creates a more cozy atmosphere. We layer the table with a lot of different pattern and texture, just like we did inside, and it brings that element of interest out to the outdoor landscape. We have some hand-painted pottery that we worked with Perigold to kind of find and curate, some hand-blown glass details like this sweet little bud vase, the ruffled napkins again for that added texture, and these really cool bistro chairs that bring me straight back to Paris and have another pattern, which we know that I love, and working with such hard materials like concrete and the concrete dining table, I wanted to add that layer of warmth out to the outdoor space and really treat it almost like an indoor environment. I love being in the backyard space. I do a little bit of gardening, but to be honest, not too much. So everything that we planted out here had to be really low maintenance, drought tolerant. This grapevine is one of the existing plants that was kind of covering the fence. We planted some potato vine to also fill in and have it be evergreen, and then some podocarpus to act as a green screen and barrier. And I love coming out and just having it feel really lush and overgrown. So no, I am not out here pruning all the time, but I kind of like that overgrown feel. And I think especially in the autumn time with all the leaves changing, it's just so pretty. In the outdoor lounge, I wanted to create different vignettes. We have kind of the dining scape, we have the lounge, and then of course we have to have a bar. This is a vintage table that I've had forever. It's really indestructible. It's a marble top, and I just keep it out here uncovered even in the winter. And in the summer, when we're hosting, we kind of load this up with wine, make your own cocktail station, and it creates another kind of little vignette for people to gather and congregate. I absolutely love this lemon bowl from Perigold. It brings me back like I'm in Positano sipping limoncello, but I'm here at home in my backyard. I think it's so fun and quirky, and collecting these elements and bringing them outdoor as well as indoor really makes the space feel like your own. Moving into the lounge portion of this outdoor space, I worked with Summer Classics to find this really lovely teak outdoor set. And I will tell you, it's so important to invest in your outdoor furniture. The quality of these cushions feels just like indoor kind of fabric and fill. And I'm always out here reading a book in the summer, kind of lounging away. And having this comfortable seating area really is my second living space. My favorite thing about my home is literally, this sounds so lame, but it's sitting on the sofa with the fireplace on, looking at the wallpaper in my dining room. My house is really small, so all the spaces just kind of meld together, and it's really kind of that overall feeling of being in this space. It just transports me to a different environment, and I'm just so comfortable. A home has soul when it feels collected. And again, that doesn't need to be an expensive adventure. It could be art that your kids have made that you frame on the walls. It could be, river rocks that you collected on a hike. It could be all those little elements that add up that tell a story. And that's really what gives a home soul to me. All right, let's head back in the house. I have loads more to show you. Let's go. Here we are in what I call the vestibule. It literally is a tiny space with a million doors. So when I remodeled the kitchen, I designed out a lot of custom cabinetry to make sense of the space. This is the original kind of telephone niche where the telephone would have been, and there was nothing here. So I built in this cabinet, designed out this custom two-tone door, which is one of the sweetest elements in the home, and I absolutely love it. So it's kind of my catch-all. It's where we lay our sunglasses or keys when we come in. And then these mushroom prints, I actually used them in a show house we did for House Beautiful, and this is where they landed, and they make me so happy. I constantly have flowers filled in this space to just make a moment of the area. And another note is the wallpaper. I went with this striped kind of pinstripe motif to bring your eye up and make the space feel larger than it is, because in reality it really is tiny and quite small. This really was my least favorite area of the home, so I think that's why I paid extra attention to it when I remodeled. I copied the same cabinet design here. This is where I keep all of my toiletries, and it's super handy. And then if you noticed, throughout the house I have the kind of original push button light switches, and I did brass cover plates everywhere, and it brings in that kind of historic charm of the house that I just love so much. Here we are in the bedroom. It's quite small in scale. The bed takes up the majority of the room, so you bet we have to have some really nice bedding to make use of this space and add some interest. Again, I worked with Perigold and Matuk to kind of partner together for this really adorable scallop suite floral bedding. We have a lot of really great texture here, and it's super cozy. Also, as you can tell, yes, there's more wallpaper. I have this really kind of interesting floral. I used to have my my bed on this wall, so that's why it's a little bit different over here. But to be honest, I love it because now I can lay in bed and look at my wallpaper, which is better. I made sense of the small space too by introducing these plug-in sconces. I wanted to keep the nightstands totally clear of a lamp to kind of have more landing space for books and water glasses and things like that. And then I designed out these tiny, sweet little nightstands locally, and I love the legs. I love how they turned out, and even though they are small, they have so much style. Now we're entering into my office. I occasionally work from home and take Zoom calls, and I wanted a wallpaper that really felt like me. And this wallpaper really feels like me. I have always loved it. So when I bought the house, it was one of the first things I purchased and one of the first papers that I installed. Here is a burl wood desk. There's a lot of wood tones in here, but I wanted it to feel rich and sophisticated. I also have, you'll see kind of a lot of different kind of styled boxes. I worked with Global Views to procure these great leather elements, the desk spotter, the boxes. Again, I'm kind of a messy person. I live in a small house, so I need those little kind of elements of storage to kind of stash away stuff, notes, lip gloss, you name it. This room also functions as my dressing room. So this is kind of my main storage for all my clothes, kind of all my vanity stuff when getting ready in the morning, but it's multifunctional. I want people, when we're entertaining, to be able to come in and use the space. So I integrated a little seating area, and then you'll see I actually brought our bar cart, which used to be in the dining room. I brought it in this space, and we encourage people to kind of come in to this room when we're entertaining and to grab a drink. Again, don't judge me. It's super disorganized in here, but that's kind of how I like it. We keep a variety of different spirits on hand. We have friends with lots of different preferences, so we like to keep the bar stocked. I also keep a lot of my favorite glassware in here that we pull out when we're hosting. And one of the pieces that I love the most are these funky, cool, gilded highball glasses. We also use them as water glasses too. My mom gifted these for me when I got my first apartment, and so they're really dear to my heart and special, and I love them so much. It's a really kind of casual room. The lighting is really low and dim. It feels really lounge-like, and that's exactly what we were going for. On top of the bar cart, this is one of my favorite vases that I picked up in Portugal, and it's just up here on display, and when I come in, it makes me smile. Again, more boxes from Global Views. I like to stash away and hide a lot of things, but I love how the wood tones on this box here and the colors just partner perfectly with the wallpaper. These are vintage bamboo chairs that I picked up, had painted out this really great muddy yellow color, and then had these cushions custom fabricated. They also match the same fabric as my shower curtain, so kind of tying the two spaces together. They pair really nicely with the wallpaper and create their own kind of airy moment. The space isn't too large in scale, so having lightweight furniture that can be moved around, that you can visually see through, was really important. Same with adding texture to the windows, but having a organic material that was light filtering makes the space feel a little bit larger than it really is. As you can tell, I integrated two different wallpapers into the space. I have this striped floral, and then I have a striped kind of pinstripe to go with the hallway on the wall adjacent, and that was super strategic. I take a lot of Zoom calls in here. I'm not really a morning person, so those early morning Zooms are in this room because I'm not yet in the office, and I wanted to have a couple different backdrops to take those Zoom calls. I also really love a cozy environment. Working in the creative field, to be honest, it's a little bit easier to work in a white box, but I want to feel like myself in here. I want to feel creative and just kind of the ability to push boundaries. And so it was important for me to introduce a lot of texture and pattern into this room, just so I felt at home and in a great, safe, creative space. You know, home means a safe space. It means a space where my family is comfortable coming over, my friends are in and out all the time. It's a place to create memories, to share memories. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your wallpaper looks like or what your sofa is upholstered in or how expensive your rug is. It really is a space that you can collect and share and create together. Thanks so much for stopping by Homeworthy. It was lovely having you, but so sorry, it's time to go.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.